Y'all, how do I keep doing this where I'm just like, well, I'll just do it. I'll just fund it. I'll just fund it myself. Whatever. So here's the thing. I'm like working on a comic book right now. Stay with me. So like a year and a half ago, I was still in San Antonio. Mr. Hallease wrote a short story that I thought was really dope. And I was like, hey, can I develop this into a film script? And he was like, sure. For those of y'all who don't know, my husband is a writer. He's written like over 50 short stories. You can check out his podcast, How Does This End? That's where he just reads the short stories. When I describe my husband's writing, I usually like to say, think Black Mirror, like that, like trippy sci-fi stuff, but like just people of color mostly. So I adapted it into a film script, right? And I was really happy with how it turned out. I was like, oh shit, I like can write scripts. I don't know why I was surprising myself. The thing about film scripts though, is that unlike writing a short story or writing a novel, something like that, the final product is words on the page. You know what I'm saying? You could edit them time and time again or whatever, but the final product is words on the page. When you write a script though, that's not the final product. It is a means to start because you need a script. Everyone needs to know what to say on screen. What's my business? People need to know the actions. What are the actions? You know what I'm saying? And so after I wrote the film script, I was like, cool. And now the next step is I make the film. Here's the thing, fam. It's giving sci-fi. It's giving CGIs, you know what I'm saying? It's giving special effects, visual effects. And so I had the homie Grace, who was my producer for This Could Have Been an Email. I was like, yo, could you put together a budget for this short film I wrote? And she was like, I got you, bet. 50 to 70K. I don't know about y'all, but I don't have 50 to 70K lying around. You have to focus on what you do have access to versus what you don't have access to, right? And so I'm looking at my script and I'm like, okay, who can I reach out to? Who can I collaborate with? How can I make this somehow visual? Enter Edgar Lushaju.
Say hi, introduce yourself, and folks, where you're based. Hi, my name is Edgar Lushaju. I'm an artist and illustrator, graphic artist and illustrator based in Southampton. I am from Tanzania. I've been living in the UK for about almost 3 years now. Grew up in Tanzania, everything in Tanzania, then I moved here at the end of 2020.
I met Edgar a while back through Adobe when I was an Adobe Creative Resident. He did Creator Camp. And I reached out to him and I was like, yo, I developed this script from one of Mr. Hallease's short stories. Can I pay you to do a proof of concept scene? Like, look at this scene, and it was the opening scene to the script, and just like riff on it. Bro, did he riff. Like, he riffed. It looks amazing. I have this proof of concept scene now. And I was like, okay, cool. But then once again, I was like, okay, this is still not sustainable though, because what am I doing? Paying him per scene, like slowly but surely? And then also I realized in that process, it was like, oh, managing an illustrator to do this is like not outside my wheelhouse, but I can tell there are known unknowns and also unknown unknowns to this process, right? But I'd kind of mentioned it, was it here, Instagram? I can't remember. I had kind of mentioned somewhere else, like, hey, I'm kind of working on this comic book thing. I don't know. Insert Akira. So Akira is an independent comic book editor based here in Atlanta. And they reached out to me and was like, hey, I can help you with this. And I was like, I sent Akira the script. I showed Akira the proof of concept scene Edgar had done. And they were like, yeah, this is dope. So the first thing I would do is actually develop your script into a comic book script, which is not unlike a film script, but it is a little different. Like panels, the number of panels, things like that, making sure the continuity was there. And I was like, okay, in my mind, I was like, okay, cool. This is starting to sound very similar to sort of like a line producer, an editing producer, if you will. And so essentially, this has all been happening since January, by the way. Essentially, I have put together this sort of like dream team of Edgar doing the illustrations, Akira being my independent comic book editor, and then me kind of managing the process as well, checking in, keeping things on track as well. And we're starting this month, like right now, we're starting. And I'm self-funding it for now. Essentially, I've worked out a rate that I can afford with Akira and with Edgar. And this is like the process. This is the process of being a creative, an artist, investing back into your art, your passions, like taking things as far as you can go, bit by bit by bit, you know what I'm saying? So while I'm self-funding it and working with them and we're all getting going, I'm still gonna try to reach out to publishers, but you know, publishers are keepers of the gate. While I would love to get this like professionally published and the budget that comes along with that, I assume, it's a long slog of like proving things and blah, 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 you know, and all that kind of stuff. So, and contrary to popular belief, time is actually a finite resource. You don't know how much of it you have. So there's no time like the present. I'm just out here investing in myself. But I just want to let y'all know that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing in the background. Essentially, my Patreon will now go towards Edgar and Akira, and like borderline indefinitely until it's done. And we've kind of worked out a rough timeline. The goal is to have it more or less completed by May of 2025. So then I can try to sell it to y'all if you're interested in checking it out. But yeah, essentially my Patreon, patreon.com/Hallease is how I'm going to be funding this project. And then for those of y'all who are not into Patreon, which I completely understand, ko-fi.com/Hallease as well, to do like one-time donations. But over on the Patreon and the Ko-fi, Ko-fi. I always say Ko-fi, it's coffee. Over on the Patreon and on Ko-fi, I will make sure to put up proof of concept scenes. I'll put up like the line drawings so you'll get like early digital access to that stuff. But other than that, just like know in the background that I'm low-key like funding a comic book. And as we get closer to May of 2025, you'll hear more about it, so on and so forth. But you know, I'm just out here. I'm just at this big age where I'm just like, listen, I just want to make stuff. If this is what I got to do to make stuff, then this is what I got to do to make stuff. Anyway, I'm Hallease, endeavoring to persevere. As always, if you're new here, I make videos about my chaotic good life. Subscribe, follow, social media, all of the things. Big shout out to my Patreon producers, as always, because y'all make the dream real. Patreon.com/Hallease. There you get early access to my videos, exclusive content, merch, and so much more. It's a good time. Again, I'm Hallease. You can't be waiting for somebody to tell you that it's okay to follow your dreams. You just gotta like do it. I don't know who needed to hear that. Was it you? Maybe. Also, did I move? Yes. Am I gonna give y'all an apartment tour? I don't know. Maybe.